Right, so with War Plan Purple going on, and with Brexit potentially going to happen, don't know yet, we thought we'd discuss whether, for Liberalists, it's a good idea to go with UKIP. In my personal view, it's not. And Will, where are you on that?
I think it would be the best idea. Out of every political party we have, they seem to be the only ones fully behind the idea.
So, for us, we thought actually it'd be good to have a bit of a discussion about it, and hopefully we can represent some of your ideas. And if you have any comments on what we discuss as well, please say below. So, I suppose it's worth getting started. So, tell me, Will, why do you think UKIP's a good idea?
They seem to be the only party fully behind the idea of Brexit. You've got all these subversive MPs throughout the Tories and the Labour, just constantly trying to get behind the idea to stop it. Already they've given the power to the MPs on every single option for Brexit. All 8 of them have had majority no. And if you had UKIP in there, for every vote they'd be on the side of, get Brexit through, have a no deal go through, they wouldn't vote for May's deal because that's not leaving and no one thinks it is. But even with Jacob Rees-Mogg and I think Graham Brady as well, the 2 big Leave Tories, they voted for May's deal, which isn't leaving and no one thinks it is. And so in the end, alright, UKIP's small, they've had 1 seat ever, I think, and after all that, they're the only ones really behind Brexit. And I think, if they really are a single issue party, which they aren't really anymore, but they're still malleable to try and get liberalist principles in there. But for now, they're just campaigning on Brexit. So the rest of it's probably malleable, from what I understand.
Okay, so what, apart from Brexit, because I can understand the viewpoint on that one, what else do you think is good about it?
They are adamantly opposed to political correctness, and they are really going for, the Muslim rape gangs and things like that. They really, really want to get all that sorted. They want political correctness out, so if police getting called racist, they'll just say this to police. Just forget about that. Just go ahead, carry on with your investigations. We want these criminals locked up. Their environmental side, they seem to want to get rid of the 2008 Climate Act. That's basically just a big regulation that won't affect anything. The environment in England's fairly good, and that's just trying to cut everything down to a pointless degree. So basically, it's everything that it seems to be in terms of political correctness and Brexit. Everything the Liberalists want. We want Brexit. We want political correctness gone. We want to be able to have a discussion, and that seems to be, from my time with the UKIP and at their conferences, that seems to be all they want.
See, my problem is the fact that I don't believe that the liberalist principles should be embedded into just one party. Do you believe that UKIP are really electable at all within mainstream society in the UK?
Not at the moment. I think we should just go on to the big problem, which is they have a massive image problem, it seems. So you've got Gerard Batten, who does a lot of good, but every time he's on the BBC or anything like that, these propaganda stations just constantly try and push him back on any point he's making. So if he goes on about Muslim rape gangs, they'll constantly go, it's not all Muslims, what about white people who are paedophiles and things like that? And it's just, they just can't seem to get this topic on. And Gerard Batten he does his best, but he's just got a whole establishment pushing against him. And then while all this is happening, he has Tommy Robinson down as a advisor, and that's just ruined everything. It's such poor political timing and poor optics that what's it done in the end? It's just not killed the party, because they're going up in the polls. They're up to 7% now. They're on par with the Lib Dems, but they could be much higher if Gerard Batten was a bit more sensible about that. Because Gerard Batten is a good leader. He saved the party. They were in a dire state after Henry Bolton, and he did everything he could to get the funding back on, to get memberships gone right up, partly thanks to the news users, but probably also partly thanks to the fact that they are really going after political correctness and going after to get hard Brexit through. So on those 2 terms, they probably would be electable, but they're trying to show that they basically don't care too much and don't play the establishment's game so much that the establishment have everything they need to tarnish their name.
See, my issue with UKIP, although there are some people that I think that do talk some sense, I don't think they're ever going to be electable as a mainstream party. And my problem is with things like Tommy Robinson being pulled in, and I don't think Gerard Batten's a good leader. I don't think he's done a good job distancing himself from some of the nutcases. When I see generation identity flags around UKIP, I don't think they're doing a good enough job of pushing out the poisonous element. And we know with Labour, you know, say Tony Blair Labour is completely different to current Labour. I didn't like Tony Blair Labour, but I definitely, you know, hate current Labour more, because I believe that the current Labour has become extremely toxic and extreme and tribal. So, from my perspective, I think that what's happening with UKIP now is fine. You know, Henry Bolton, yeah, he did a bad job. I think that Nigel Farage was almost a cult of personality, and I think that he was basically the symbol of UKIP for years.
He was a single issue man as well.
He was, yeah. But the problem is now is that I don't think that Gerard Batten is pushing the poisonous element away enough, and so UKIP will always be defined by the membership. And if the membership is growing, but it's growing in a direction where it's welcoming the types that would support Generation Identity, the Football Lads Alliance, and things like that, I think what's going to happen is although UKIP might be reasonable for a while, if that element's never pushed out, they can be the party itself can be redefined by worse actors in the future. So, momentum. That's those sorts of groups of people that have taken control of Labour, the likes of Diane Abbott, the likes of Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell. They've been a poisonous element within Labour for years, and they finally got their time.
And everyone hates them, yeah.
And that's you know, that's where they've gotten to. If UKIP are, you know, at the moment the party of Brexit, fine. I appreciate the fact that there's no party at the moment that's doing a good job with Brexit. I think the main issue is the fact we have no strong leaders that are trying to pull people together with a positive vision for the future for England. I think that's a major part of the issue. The news at the moment, well, I think really they're just stoking fear. I think the parties themselves are just on shaky ground, and that's where fear can breed. But with UKIP, if they're not going to push out the dodgy elements, as much as I could vote for them, which I don't think I would, I wouldn't vote for any of the parties at the moment. My concern is that if they're the party that the liberalist principles get taken to, suddenly you have the mainstream parties that have far larger voter numbers voting against exactly what we want. And so, all of our ideas that are good for everyone, Conservative, for sort of moderate Labour voters, for Lib Dems, even for some of the Greens. I mean, we've got people on the left and right within Lib UK. I think to take our principles to UKIP is suicide, personally.
I can see the point, but I think the thing is, it is malleable at the moment. It's always had an image problem. I mean, people were calling it racist in the new BNP, even though BNP can't get in there.
The BNP was a lightning rod for that, and when the BNP went, UKIP became the next target.
Yeah,
but
it will always be the next target. I think the problem is that because liberalists are so anti-establishment as it is, I mean, from what I see in our Facebook page, most people hate all the parties, even if they're party members. I think we have a few people in the SDP. You know, they're quite good. You can get liberalists in there, try and change that up. You can do it with the small Liberal Party, not the Liberal Democrats, the other one that split off from them in the 70s. Got people in there who want to try and make their policies more liberalist. Why not try and do it with every party? If UKIP's the biggest one we have, if we already have, you know, if Count Dankula and Sargon are already in there trying to make it as liberalist as possible, why not try and support them as much as possible? You can lobby that UKIP to add Generation Identity to the list of banned organisations that can join the party. Sure, they support them all the time, but that's mainly because Gerard Batten's so against Islam and he's so against immigration. So if we side with them on two issues there, yeah, the rest of it's awful, lobby to get it out then. We can't, just because they have a bad name now, and they've always had a bad name thanks to being anti-establishment, why can't that change? And honestly, when people find out I'm part of UKIP, they're a bit surprised at first, and then I go through, no, here's some of the things from the interim manifesto. Alright, there's some bad in there, they want to open coal mines again for some reason. So if you go through the manifesto and say, is there anything actually unreasonable in here, they can go on something, but eventually the tarnish just washes away. They think maybe they are reasonable. They'll never vote for them because the only people I talk to about this are basically already Tories who hate the Tory party, But
if people want to take a party a bit more seriously, so for me, I followed for Britain when that was announced. Yeah. So I thought, that could be an interesting thing to kind of shake things up a little bit. But I came up with a few ideas. I posted a couple of things on their group, and I was quickly sort of called an apologist and a cuck and all sorts of things. And to me, I thought, you know what? The most people in this group are knuckle draggers. Why the hell would I want to be here? I've been called an optics cuck by people that are following the UKIP thing as well, for saying, well, actually, maybe we need to present things in a way that everyone can kind of get on board, as opposed to burying our ideas on one side. The problem is that I'm surrounded by students who are willing to talk about different ideas if they're not wrapped in a certain package.
Yeah.
The ideas are what matter. The problem is that UKIP, if they don't push out the elements that tarnishes these ideas that could otherwise be good, then UKIP become, they continue to be unelectable. If I was to go into the party, I would not be someone that resembles anything of the element in the party.
I wouldn't be so sure to say that, because I went to the UKIP Young Independents Conference, and they're people like us. They just care for the country. They want the poisonous elements of the country out. There were 2 people from Generation Identity, and they were like, no one wanted to talk to them. They just went round giving out flyers about some MEP that they were against. But they didn't talk to anyone. They just kept to themselves, and they seemed to be there to be kind of subverty. They weren't really accepted fully, and I think it's because loads of people don't like Generation Identity in it, and that I believe there have been rumours that they are planning to add it, but I haven't seen that go through, and I can't imagine it's priority.
If they add it, then I would applaud UKIP for that.
Yeah.
And I would have, for me, any party that will actually stick to our principles and also push out the people that we don't agree with, it's great. The problem is there's not enough public statements on these issues.
Yeah.
There's not enough going on to make sure that people are defining their party and defining their views in a way that would stop them from being kind of hijacked by the wrong types of people.
Yeah. I think the other thing is with the party, the way to make it malleable is to have people go in and say, David Curtis, he is a big old liberalist type guy. He's basically a libertarian, not to the extent that taxation is theft, but he's fairly libertarian. If the liberalists support him and say this, if you go for particular members who represent your views, like Katie Hoey in Labour, not Jacob Rees-Mogg anymore, but when he was being slightly better than he is now, if you put liberalist seal of approval and get 20 people to go support whatever rally he's at, he will take notice of that and then get people to help us out to try and promote our values, because he's already promoting them anyway. And David Curtis is a good liberalist guy. I think Sargon did an interview with him, and he just there was nothing about it that I just disagreed with. And sure, you're going to have poisonous elements in it. Don't support it. Say we absolutely disagree with that. Liberalists only like these particular candidates. If you just go to candidates and not parties, then eventually the party will change shape and it will be as liberalist as you want it to be. And the thing with UKIP, it's small enough to actually be able to do that successfully, because Peter Hitchens tried to get into the Tory party to basically just destroy it. But he realised that it's so established and it's already got such an ideology that's breaking away now, but had such an ideology when he went in that he just couldn't do anything to change it. So he just gave up on politics after that, because he didn't think there was any point going after the big ones. So, okay, why don't we go by the same metric? Don't go after the big ones, go after the small, malleable ones. Which is why we've got people, as I said, in the Liberal Party and the SDP. They're malleable. So do your best to try and get liberalist values in there.
But surely all the parties are malleable with those that actually have support and will drive their views in and be patient at the same time. I think that sometimes with UKIP it's almost people jumping the gun to try and get things done as quick as possible without thinking, well actually, surely it's best to change the whole status quo as opposed to focus on one party that may or may not stay relevant. I mean, for me, I don't think that liberalists should ever be as with the name liberalist or definitely not with Lib UK, because we're not about parties in Lib UK, but with the liberalist thing, I think actually surely building bridges with people that ideally would vote Labour, ideally would vote Lib Dem, ideally would vote any of these parties, and help them to take these ideas into the parties where everyone works together to promote these ideas within their own parties, and also provides advice for those that want to do it in their own party. You might be, I'm a member of the Conservative Party, and I've been to this councillor meeting, I've spoken to these people, I've got these ideas. I mean, I would like to see us interviewing individual councillors who, generally speaking, they don't worry about national politics. It's more about where the bins get collected. But people that maybe are on a small scale, on the local level, about their ideas. Because I think the more that we have an abundance of the ideas in each party, I mean, I know a Labour councillor who is very much for the Liberalist principles, because to him they're the standard Liberal principles that he would abide by.
Oh, yeah.
They're very palatable. So why bury these principles in with just UKIP, and why promote UKIP as a liberalist party? And I'm not saying you do, but a lot of people see it as the liberalist ideal. It's the logical choice. But I think that really it's quite short-sighted. It's an ideal sort of tribal thing where everyone should bundle into a place where they agree with each other. We're actually surely working together to talk to people that we disagree with, and also interview people that could be positive forces for change within their own parties, would surely be a better option.
Oh, it is a better option. I'm not saying everyone focusing on UKIP. I'm saying UKIP isn't a lost cause. UKIP is malleable. Why not try and change it to our direction? Because if you just want to leave it to the FLA and GI, it will end up as the FLA GI camp, and that'll be political suicide more so than us trying to go in and saying, look, as far as I've seen from UKIP marches and things like that, they've all been really peaceful. You see generation identity flags, but they are very much a subversive.
But they're not pushed out.
I don't think it'll happen straight away.
If the problem is with, I agree with some of the things that Tommy Robinson said, but at the same time I don't think he represents himself very well, and I don't think that he's someone that should be held up as some sort of messiah. I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying general. Whenever I talk about these ideas with you, by the way, I'm not accusing you of them. I'm talking talking
in general.
Exactly. But the problem is, I think that because people have a thing of backing those that they believe represent their ideas the most, we are becoming tribalised with the representatives that we choose. Within one side of the YouTube sphere, you've got the likes of Sargon, Paul Joseph Watson, and things like that. But these people they can represent our ideas to a point, but really our ideas are best represented by ourselves. That's what individualism is not. So I do worry about UKIP and other parties that just accept these figures, as opposed to being a little bit more critical. And I don't mean critical to push them away, but I'm saying to have debate, to have discussion, and get people to realise that it's not as binary as you like or hate someone. Actually, this is the reason we talk to this person, or this is the reason we're associated with this person.
Well, the problem with that's all part of the culture nowadays, isn't it? The establishment can only have established voices. That's why you see Ash Sarkar on everything. She has nothing to add, but at least she says the right thing even though it's empty. So she's on every panel show, but you get someone who goes against it even a little bit and they are just berated by the hosts, and it's quite bad. And so UKIP are against that. That's why they want to defund the BBC. That's why they want to enforce free speech, and that's the first step I'd say to actually getting toward that. And okay, the rest of it's bad, but for God's sake, at least they have free speech. At least they've got the good thing that everything else is missing.
But defund the BBC is surely it's too much of an uphill struggle at this point. I mean, surely smaller goals that could be more realistic, like challenging the BBC on its own merits, on its own constitutions and things, and focusing more on individual cases. I mean, I as much as I take what Tommy Robinson's documentary with a pinch of salt to a degree, I do. The interviews with John Sweeney were very, it's obvious what he was doing. But I think that really exposés like that, where we can actually challenge these people on individual points, and they themselves do not want to lose their funding, so it's in their interest to change. We just need to make it so.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Liberalists would be better off at doing that than Tommy Robinson, because everyone just thinks Tommy Robinson's a liar. God knows why. Well, I do know why, because the establishment says he's a liar. So if Liberalists come along and we don't give them any reason to tarnish our name, which we haven't given them any reason to, sure, if we try and associate with UKIP, they will try and tarnish us, but we can just say our members are in every single party, why aren't you tarnishing their parties? And that'll make that accusation fall away.
But surely we should start there first.
We're already starting everywhere, to be fair. We've already got people in the Tory party, we've got people in Labour, got people in all the other small parties. We have Lib Dems.
But we haven't organised that, have we? We haven't got an organised group of people yet.
No, we've not organised UKIP. That's the Liberalist Society.
No. What I mean is we haven't got an organised group of people within these different parties yet.
No, we don't have for UKIP either.
No. What I mean is we don't have people within each of the. I know people in these parties, but we haven't set up an organised conversation yet with people within who are members of Labour, of a Conservative Party, of UKIP, of the Lib Dems or whatever. We haven't gotten there yet.
No.
So surely that should be the next step.
Yeah, do that. Yeah, that would be a good next step. The thing, I think I'm looking far into the future. I think I'm looking at the end game before I'm looking at the next steps. And I think UKIP seems to be a better means to get there. From my perspective,
Yeah.
I can only be a member of one party.
Yes.
So an individual can't go into every single one, which is why we've got a group who are going to go in loads of different directions. But I don't think that means that we should just ignore UKIP.
No, I understand that completely.
Yeah.
I think the problem I have at the moment is it seems that a lot of people have this, I mean, of course it's an oversimplification, but it seems a lot of people have this thing where it has to be UKIP. And my concern at the moment is that actually it's heightening and ratcheting up the tribalism where things are stuck into one camp or another, which the reason I want to have this discussion with you is not because I necessarily agree with your decisions as an individual.
Yeah.
It's more understanding the broader ramifications of burying ideas in with one group, because the media are going after people. They are doing that, and if we don't, if all that they see from liberalists is UKIP, and there isn't enough of a push from other people, and there isn't enough discussion, enough dialogue of us defining, or people who are joining UKIP defining why they're doing so, I think that it will be defined on their behalf by those they don't want defining it.
Oh, that's definitely a worry. Which is, well, having this conversation now is making sure we know why I joined it anyway. So if you get people in who are part of Labour or Tories, you can say, oh, why are you in? And they'll say, oh, we back particular candidates. So I back David, I can't remember his last name now, but Jared Batten as well. I like most of the things he's doing. It's just Tommy Robinson as an advisor, I'm against that. And so, yeah, the clarification would be good. And interviewing other people who are part of the other parties, that would be a good idea too. It's not joining UKIP, I think, from my perspective, would be a good idea because they are the most malleable and they seem to be the best odds to get liberalist principles into it. And if that tarnishes its name, okay, that's a shot in the foot. But the thing is that nobody trusts the media anymore. Newspapers are about 30% trusted. So no, like, who reads The Guardian and trusts that Bolsonaro is actually far right? I mean, no one actually thinks that now, except for people who take up, apart from Londoners who just read The Guardian and don't believe anything else. Everyone's going to get tarnished by these people who aren't trusted anyway.
So if I was to, tell me if I'm wrong, but if I was to kind of define your position on these things, you don't see a clear way forward, and you're picking the best, the best use of your time in this point in time when you choose UKIP, because you find that that's probably the easiest route to go down for you, the path of least resistance.
I would certainly call it the most expedient route, yeah.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, political expedience. You've got to. Sometimes you just have to do that. With the Tories, Labour, they're not shifting.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
So what would your closing thing be then? If you
subscribe to PewDiePie.
No, you can't do that anymore. Not with New Zealand.
No, sorry. Yeah. Ultimately, whichever party you choose, it's entirely up to you. I would personally go for more malleable ones. If UKIP's two-generation identity for you, which, I mean, you see the flags, but that's usually about 10 people with 10 flags. It's not a big part of it. That's from my experience anyway. But if you don't like it simply for that fact, you've got other options. You've got the Liberal Party, they're active in the north. You've got the SDP, they're more down south. You've got these left-wing parties that are perfectly happy to be malleable and listen to people's opinions on their bad policies. Because I know the Liberal Party have these, they're planning for these women-only skill centres, and obviously that's illiberal because it's just collectivised women and tried to make them advantaged for no particular reason other than statistics aren't how we'd like them. But they are perfectly happy to listen to that because I can't remember who's part of the Liberal Party now, but he's gone to their conferences and been happy to talk to people.
Richard,
to try and change. Yeah, it's Richard Phillips. Yeah, he's been happy to go there and talk to people about their policies. Do it for all of them. I just think UKIP's the biggest, not necessarily most malleable, but because it's the biggest, when you look at how malleable they are to how big they are, they're probably the best one to go, and they're only rising. So that's what I'd say.
So my closing statement would probably be the fact that I don't want to join any political party myself, and I think that it's important that everyone criticises those that are the closest to them, not just to not to win. It's not about point scoring, but it's about understanding where their shortcomings are with their own ideas, and also understanding where your understanding comes up short as well. For me, I understand where Will's coming from on these matters. I don't think that UKIP's the best idea in the world, but I'm not against it either. I think that really, as long as those who join UKIP think about what they're doing and understand the potential ramifications of their actions, and understand what's, how to protect themselves, and also how to increase the potential for UKIP to become a mainstream party, I'm not against it. My concern is that when you bury a bunch of ideas into one party, those ideas are just debated against by those that want to point score during the debates to win. So make sure that even if you're not voting for a party, you can criticise those that are joining parties to help them to formulate their ideas. Discussion is what's going to breed progress in British society, in my opinion. And Will, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but you can understand my perspective, I think.
Oh yeah, I think we understand each other very well. I think we agree that there are positive points to each of our positions. We don't adamantly hate each other after this. It's like,
I hate you for other reasons. No.
Oh yeah, obviously.
No, so hopefully, guys, you've enjoyed this little discussion that we filmed. It was just a random idea we had as Will's down from to visit civilization from up north, and I've just gotten back from Cyprus. So take care, guys. Hope you enjoyed the chat, and we'll catch you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much.